immediately started going forward. A lot easier. What are you doing, bud? Where are you going? Is it harder to drive with the saucers on it? No, it's always that terrible? Wow. Where are you going? Yeah, see, you backed up. Good. See, you backed up. Great. What a strange device. Hey, we want to see you driving. Let him drive it. Last time he drove a car, he rolled it, so everyone's clear. Do you see what I'm talking about now?
Not what you thought was going to happen.
Yeah, it's like driving a Bureau, right?
They said it's like a zero to it. Not anyone I heard.
Most zeros are glad drive actually work. Oh yeah, yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, sorry. Wow, there's no gouging. We'll let him get it going and then we'll drive him without the saucer fans on it. Maybe it'll be easier. Alright, now we're on the one without the dishes on it. She's leaving it loose. Couple rocks on the lawn. She's looking real smooth. A little wet over there still, but she's starting to dry out and set up. Alright guys, all in all, successful 2 a.m. pour. Still running the crawls. You know, essentially those are smoothing out any imperfections, low spots. It takes, you know, say you got a bunch of little small low spots and high spots in one area, it takes the whole area and evens it out. That one got started. These two are more aggressive and they're building them. Look how smooth it's getting so far, but it's still a little wet on the surface, so they're just kind of working their way through that. Fun's out now though, so sort of stuff. Everything has gone perfect. They're both floorboards off now. You know that's a good sign. I'd say all in all, huge success today. Overall, this video I didn't turn out good, but it did go exactly how I wanted because we didn't get a finish on a lot of the projects we got started on, and that's because of World Cup and bullets. This video shot over a couple of months. So I'm hoping that from here forward we can be involved start to finish on most of the rest of the house stuff. So like, for example, today, going to the track, put all the left there, even out the top of the surface, and then do the saw cut. So we'll get some fix that, start off the next video. The anchor slab is done. Pretty fired up to get that steel standing up. See how it looks. Just wanted to also say thank you guys again for the opportunity to be building my house on YouTube with you, and I hope you guys are enjoying it. If there's anything in particular you want to see going forward, you know, specifically that we're not already thinking about, let us know in the comments below. We're fired up, and the views have been so good on the first two episodes. Many more to come, and we're trying to make the episodes really long. So, hope you guys will love it. Thanks for watching the video today. We'll see you later.
We follow pizza drivers to make sure the customers get a Pepsi.
Is that legal?
It's a gray area.
That's a perfect combo.
Have fun out there this holiday. Get up to 30% off Nike.
Before things kicked off in Israel, with the whole Hamas thing, and if I hadn't got there then, I would have no chance. Like right now, Israel's bombing Lebanon, and so it's a dangerous place. But Baalbek, if there was one example, one ancient site on Earth that is evidence of a lost, ancient, advanced civilization, And by advanced, I'm not talking about space lasers here. I'm talking about more sophisticated than what we were taught in school for the known capabilities. And Baalbek has the largest stones that were ever quarried in human history, the largest stones that were lifted, stacked, and transported in human history, and the largest stone columns in all of classical history. And we're talking, so the trilithon stones, 3 stones, 900 tons apiece, or 800 metric tons, and they were moved a half mile from the quarry. They were lifted and stacked approximately 30 feet off the ground. And when I say stacked, they were perfectly lined up. And Jamie, it's in my folder of Baalbek if you want to show some of these. And they're absolutely massive. So let me tell you right here, and I of course have the gentleman there who I'll tell you about later highlighted just to kind of show you for perspective. Like that's someone right there that's 5'11". Those stones that are highlighted in red are the trilithon stones. But these pictures do not do it justice because it's taken through an ultra-wide camera lens. From the top to bottom of the red highlighted stones is 14 feet. And they're 62 feet long. Or 62 feet, excuse me. Like, there's me. And
it's hard to tell because of the perspective, and people need to kind of understand how a wide-angle lens sort of distorts things
Yes.
by showing you this enormous field of view. But when you're looking at something that's 14 feet long and 62 feet long and 14 feet high, like, what is the weight of that? What's the overall weight?
900 imperial tons or 800 metric tons. And to anyone listening, a metric ton is 2,200 pounds, 1,000 kilograms, and an imperial ton is 2,000 pounds. So that's 1.7 million pounds. Each of them, there's 3 of them. And if you were to go to the quarry, there's ones that are 1,200 tons and even 1,500 tons that are 20 feet tall. This is mind-boggling. Like, Jamie, if you want to just scroll through some of the other photos and kind of give Joe the perspective and the audience the perspective.
And these are clearly cut stones that were moved into place and moved 23 feet above the ground.
Right. And technically 30 feet because there's stones that are actually below the ground there that you can't see because it's submerged under the earth. So technically it was 30 feet, but 23 feet off the ground today. And look right there, this highlights. So not only is that 14 feet from top to bottom, which you would never realize when you're looking at this. And these are confirmed measurements, by the way. This is right out of encyclopedias. But notice how they're completely flush, nice and even with each other. And this exceeds the known capabilities of what the Romans had. And it's worth mentioning that this site is some 2,400 miles from Rome, the capital. And if they're going to say that this was created by the Romans, one, people need to understand that the Romans were renowned for documenting everything, yet this site is not credited to anybody. They don't know exactly who did it or when, but the academics conclude that it had to have been the Romans or the Phoenicians because, of course, there was no one before them. And with this photo right here, let me say something else. There is evidence of at least 2, but arguably 3 different architectures that were done at this site. And I would conclude that this is evidence that this site existed in prehistoric times. There's also, I can show you encyclopedias that talk about all that being prehistoric in nature, dating back 11,000 years of human history. And what I argue is that it was built up, it was found by the Romans, the Phoenicians, they built upon later, and right here is evidence for all that have eyes to see. Look how they obviously used broken stones and constructed on top of it. Why would you go from making the most advanced stones in history that far exceed anything you see in Rome? For example, if you were to go to the Colosseum, as magnificent as that is, it is architecture of mathematics and just brilliance. But this right here, why would they, for all the feats of Roman history, why would they have the most impressive feats over 2,000 miles away from the capital? In fact, let me just say this. When I'm talking about 900-ton stones, the largest stone in all of Rome is 53 tons. It's the Trajan's capital block to make up the Trajan's column. 53 tons. This is 15 times heavier.
There's a number of things too. I'm not a huge believer in ancient technology. I know you've heard me talk about AG1. It's an awesome way to improve your whole body health and just feel better in general. But today I have a new special offer for you. If you try AG1, you also get a free month supply of AG's omega-3 supplement. These once-a-day capsules have high-quality omega-3 fatty acids to take with your AG1. Just that easy. Over 80% of people are not consuming the right amount of omega-3s in their diet, and AG's capsules ensure that you'll get the essential fatty acids you need. These nutrients provide additional support for brain and cardiovascular health when taken together with AG1, And if you've ever taken fish oil before, you know that taste. Well, don't worry, AG's encapsulated fish oil actually has a nice lemon taste, not bad at all. If you're looking for a simple and effective investment in your health, try AG1. And if you've been thinking about it, try it now. This November, you'll receive a 1-month supply of AG Omega-3 when you first subscribe, in addition to the welcome kit with 5 AG1 travel packs and a bottle of vitamin D3 plus K2. So make sure you check out drinkag1.com/Joe Rogan to claim this special offer. That's drinkag1.com/Joe Rogan. I'm not a big believer in agent technology, as Jimmy's well aware, but
Which is why it's important that you're here, because people are going to hear multiple perspectives.
yeah, that's where I can tell you some things about Outback that are still interesting to me. One of them is you don't see the Roman foot in those stones, which is weird. You would expect to see some sort of breakdown of the Roman foot in these measurements, but they're not there at Outback. They are there on the stones that we're pouring
by Roman foot, what you're saying is that there's a different measurement, what they consider a foot. It's
Yes.
not 12 inches.
Correct. There's a Roman unit of measurement that they would use in construction. And we don't see it in those stones in the trilithon. But there's 3 stones that were quarried and left in the ground. All of those stones show signs of using the Roman foot.
Yeah, Jamie, when you scroll over.
So that right off the bat shows to me that the ones that were installed were not built by the Romans, but the ones that were quarried were made by the Romans. They were trying to quarry out stones to match them. Another thing is Roman architecture always uses the most impressive things right in the front. You walk in the front of the thing, and that's where you're going to see the biggest stones, the most impressive, for obvious reasons. These are in the back, particularly the opposite end of the entrance. If you have to, like, from what you told me, you kind of to look for it if you don't know where they're at, right? Like, you can't just show up on the side and they say, here's the Philippine.
Well, let me tell you a quick story real quick. So I had the pleasure of going there with some people, and I'll tell you about it later. I won't do the name drop just yet. But Dory, who lives in Lebanon, he toured us around, and he had been to the site 3 times before. When we went, it was his 4th time. He did not know of the existence of the trilithon stones. They're around back. You got to walk probably a third of a mile to get there. They don't even bring the tourists around to the trilithon stones. He had no idea what I was talking about. The night before dinner, I'm trying to explain to him, like, the trilithon stones, the 900-ton stones. And I had to show him a picture. He had never seen them before.
How do they not show the tourists this?
That's an excellent question. You do have to walk. To be honest, it's like a 12, 15-minute walk to go around to get there. I mean, it's part of the platform, but you have to go all the way around. And some people just don't feel like making the walk. And when we were there, we were totally alone for a half hour with these stones. Not a single person. There was hundreds of people at the site. Not a single one of them came around back. Now, just to clarify what the audience is seeing right now, this is at the quarry, which is a half mile away. This is where all the stones originate from. And this one right here is what's called the Stone of the Pregnant Woman. It is 1,200 tons. As you can see, it's 14 feet tall, which is the same height. So those trilithon stones I was showing you a moment ago. The only difference is that this one's 68 feet long. It's virtually the same size, except for just a few feet shorter, but it's the same height. So that gentleman right there, Pierre, who's a wonderful man, is 6 foot tall. And look at him just dwarfed by this stone.
1,200 tons.
Same.
Right.
And it's not from them.
Well, no, it is. This was quarry. So this is at the quarry.
So so this one's at the quarry, but the ones that were placed, where are they from?
This quarry, which is a half mile away. So this is
So they moved 1,800,000 pounds a half a mile.
3 of them, and that doesn't include the 2 dozen that are 350 tons apiece. That doesn't include the 9 that are 600 tons apiece. 9 stones that are 600 tons apiece are somehow a side note to the trilithon stones. And let me just tell you this. This is something, Jamie, if you scroll over a few to articles involving, because this is what the audience needs to understand. A lot of people hear these numbers and they don't wrap their head around exactly how important this is, which is that go to the article involving the Los Angeles County Museum of Art. It's in the same folder of Baalbek. And the largest stone moved in modern times is 340 tons. And we're going to come back to all these photos too, because it's extremely important. There's some details in here.
That's the one at that Goofy Museum in LA,
Yes.
which is, by the way, a very goofy museum.
Yeah, I haven't been there.
It's so dumb. It's so dumb. There's an acrylic box that's on the ground
Yeah.
that you're supposed to interpret as art. It's just a box just sitting there. It's one of those places where you go there and you go, what is my tax dollars going to do?
Jamie, go
Motherfuckers.
to the other folder that's moving stones. So let me just, while he's looking for that, let me explain to you.
I
So,
saw the video on that, and so what this is there was a suspended stone. It's an enormous stone that they placed there as part of their art piece.
yeah,
And this thing was
not that, Jamie.
This
Go-
is just fails.
That's a, yeah, we'll play that video in a little bit. It's pretty funny.
They had to move this stone. It was 4 miles an hour is the fastest they could move it. They had to build a structure around the stone to move it.
Yes,
And
so
this fucking insanely huge truck.
let me tell you. So the details, it is a 200, so they had to custom build a trailer truck around the stone itself.
Tell Jamie what
Jamie,
that
look
is.
under the moving stones folder. Go to, let's see here, scroll down a little bit, go to Ramesseum statue. Man, these silly, you're using a Mac, it doesn't show you the preview of the pictures. Keep looking until you find a big red truck, but I'll tell the audience what you're looking for, exactly what we're talking about here. So, keep going. You're on it. Go back a little bit. Go back to the Article 3. Go left like 3 times. Right there. Go back. Right there. So this one stone, 340 tons. They call it the largest operation of its kind since the Egyptians built the pyramids. They have custom built a 260-foot-long trailer truck that consists of 196 semi-truck wheels. It has 44 axles, it's 32 feet long, it took a year of planning, it cost $10 million. It took 9 days to move this 340-ton stone.
What a great use of taxpayers' money.
Absolutely.
There's just no way they needed that much.
Here's about Hoddle's next people.
No way. I mean, this is wonderful.
And so this is what's so important, is that the largest stone moved in human history is at the Ramesseum. The Ramesseum statue in Egypt. It's 1,000 metric tons, which is 2.2 million pounds. That was inexplicably moved 170 miles from the quarry in Aswan. And here's the significance of this. This stone, a lot of people Los Angeles County Museum of Art is going for the weight. The stone at the Ramesseum is 3 times heavier.
How far did they move that stone?
This one at the museum was 170 miles, the other one was 106 miles.
170 miles.
And
2 million pounds.
so this is where things get really fun, is that they say, the academics, they say that the stones would have been moved on tree logs, because that's their best guess. It is not an unreasonable guess, but when you look into the nuanced details, so I'm really learning about hard on this, there's a lot of people, are you familiar with the really skilled artists? No, so it's the measurement of stone, and it's often used by alternative ancient history buffs to say that, hey, copper-based tooling could not have been utilized to create stone that's been claimed. And there's no evidence that the Egyptians never told us they used bronze tooling to cut the stones to make up the great stones within the pyramid. And so I started asking, like, wait a second, if they're going to say that they moved a 2.2 million pound stone on tree logs, well, they say that it was the cedar, the Lebanon There is the backbone. So that's what it looks like from the aerial shot now. It's completely toppled over. God knows what would have taken to knock this thing over. They say probably an earthquake. It was a seated statue. If it was a standing statue, so kind of there. Yeah, that's what it, yes. And again, 1,000 metric tons, 2.2 million pounds. How it got knocked over in itself, to me, might be indicating some sort of cataclysm or the side place. But the point is this: it was moved 170 miles. They do not, the Egyptians do not articulate, illustrate, or describe how they were done so. And
Isn't that part of the problem with the building of the library of Los Angeles? All that information is lost forever.
yes. And here's the thing, let me say this real quick. Brother, the library of Alexandria was like thousands of years before the Great Pyramid. Like the library of Alexandria was just after, was it 4780 or BC that we got destroyed, is believed, something around there, so 2,000 years old. This statue is 3,000 years old, according to the academics. So it's 1,000 years before the library of Alexandria. So yeah, it's not unreasonable to suggest that they would have had information about how they constructed these things. In fact, I want to believe that they did. But it's gone. Yeah, they had not what were you gonna say?
When you're talking about, we look at the way they move stone, talking about the sea. They move one stone in human history that was really big. The biggest stone ever moved was the Thunderstone, moved by Captain America.
Late 1700s.
Like 1700s. They used ancient people and they moved this thing, I think, for about 10 months.
9 months, and it took 9 months.
And when they were pulling this thing on the ground, they had to consistently try metallurgy different types of ball bearings for the oil because the ones that were moving were being prepping. They had to use strip jacks, so just like you could jack a house floor with. So they would use these strip jacks to lift the statue back up over the ball bearing. And the Romans didn't have this very much. The Egyptian metallurgy would try different kinds of ball bearings and shit. There's something way outside of the 1700s. The 1700s were talking right at the cusp of them actually making structural steel. This is the beginning of iron bridges and shit. They were actually making good metallurgy there. And it still took trial and error. And that stone is basically the same size as the one we're on. It's trying to get big. Like the same kind of issues where they would have had to jack that thing up with a metal, which would have took steel or hard metal. And they basically had absolute highly advanced metallurgy for not what we have now, but 1700s.
And the Romans did not have that level of skill. So that's the thing. So there's something that you and Romeo, Dan, and this, let me just give you a shout out. Hey, everybody, go subscribe to Dunking on YouTube. Your channel is Gold Mine that is bringing, you are bridging together the facts that the alternative theorists are presenting, as well as the academics, and you're differentiating the truth. And your channel is so valuable. And what you taught me is that the invention of the screw jack was utilized on top of that, those metal rails. So with the Romans didn't have that. That wasn't invented until thousands of years later. So without that screw jack, they would have never been able to lift it in the first place.
There's no way to establish. Yeah.
You said something that you don't believe in ancient technology.
I don't believe in ancient high technology in the regards that, generally speaking, when you start getting
Put this like,
I'm so sorry, it's okay. I'm so sorry about that. I'm not a believer in ancient high technology in regards. I don't believe even ancient steam engines would be like pushing it. When you start talking like really advanced stuff, I tend to look for other explanations. I tend to look for, stone was a premier building material for homes for like millions of years, millions of years. So father passed to his son how to do this sort of thing, and eventually you get to a point where you start working with metal, and that kind of just dies off. We quit doing that for a while, and then 1,000 years goes by, if you look at what our ancestors used to do, and we're like, holy shit. But I honestly think a lot of the stuff that we just saw how they did it, and we just go, oh fuck, why didn't I think of that?
but wait a minute, when you're talking about moving things that are 1,000 tons and you're moving them through the mountains,
But it now,
when would you believe this is?
let's put it this way. I'm not opposed to the idea, but we need to get there first. Like if we're going, like we're talking about the Thunderstone or the Volbeck stones, going from, like I feel like we need to exhaust every other possibility before we can start hanging our hat on something bigger.
What other possibilities could you even conceive of?
I've had an openly conversation, but it is technology.
Well,
It has to be
it would be a form of very sophisticated technology.
It would something bigger, better than we know, or different than we know. But like I give an example that I've used it on the gym before was, you know, when this World War II ended, America ended all the sniper schools overseas to tighten the budget. And when Vietnam started, we didn't have any sniper schools. And the NCOs on the ground say, hey, we need trained snipers. They had to actually recruit snipers, sharpshooters for the American Olympic team because we didn't have trained snipers anymore. In 20 years, we get better tools, we'll get worse results because of the lack of skills. So I'm of the opinion that there's some people.
You're right, but a sniper is something that we're all very well aware of. It's conceivable, it's obvious how you would do it. You could explain it to the layperson.
Yeah, you can. But it was something that still there was a skill set that was lost in just 20 years. That's all. I think that I think like a lot of things, you see a lot of the ideas for moving the big rocks. That some guys will use like they think that like water pressure vacuums were used to pull rocks up tubes. So you see all kinds of interesting hypotheses that use lower tech means that I tend to think most of them I think don't work, but I tend to think that those would be the direction we should be looking before we go to ancient high technology. And again, the reason that I think that is because if we do get to ancient high technology, we really need to have eliminated everything else but we get there in order to be taken seriously. I guess that's kind of how I look at it. I'm a more skeptical person.
Real quick. So let's back up to this to see if we agree on this. Would you agree that what we were taught in school, that the ancients were more sophisticated than we described here?
Oh, yeah,
See, then there you go. So we're on the same page because it's like, what's technology? Like, do they have space lasers and hydraulics? I'm not suggesting that.
What's technology?
Right, a horse saddle technology, right? So they had something else.
Oh yeah, they definitely. When I guess like when I get to what I think when most people think high technology, like you say space lasers and stuff, powered things, like something where they were no longer using human power or water power, something they were harnessing energy or doing sophisticated chemistry, things like that, where it starts to be like, well, I need more evidence to go that far. However, the moving to the big rocks is something that I'm quick to say that in order to do it, we would need, if we were to do it, we would need technology well outside of what they had available to them at the time. And in my opinion, if you look at those, like the Baalbek, to go back to that, you've got the three big stones that were put in the wall that don't have the Roman unit of measurement used. And we got three big rocks in the ground that do have the Roman unit of measurement. I think that they gave up. They realized they weren't able to do it. They had one group carving them, and the guys tasked them, look at you guys on the way. Well, where were we these things?
And the fact that it's undocumented, like the inner foundation of Baalbek is completely undocumented. But
You were saying something about dating to 11,000 years.
there is, so maybe if you go to the Baalbek folder, you'll find an encyclopedia article that describes the evidence of human habitation at Baalbek dating back 9,000 BC, which is 11,000 years ago. And I'm not suggesting these stones were created back then. I'm open to it.
What is the evidence? What kind of evidence? Pottery?
Oh, sure. I'd have to go read through the scientific article, but it's humans were there 11,000 years ago. And the fact that they don't document when the Romans were, yeah, see right there, and there's another.
History that dates back at least 11,000 years, encompassing significant periods such as prehistoric, Canaanite, Hellenistic, and Roman eras. After Alexander the Great conquered the city in 334 BCE, he renamed it Heliopolis, Greek for Sun City. The city flourished under Roman rule.
Now, let me say this real quick, Jamie. When you go to the picture of the mountains in this folder, so this is something that's unbelievable. All right, so just scroll through all these photos of the mountains because here's something that people need to understand that is unbelievably significant, which is that at Baalbek, there are approximately 200 rose granite columns that were transported from the Aswan Quarry in Egypt, which is 700 miles as the bird flies. And what's wild is that the only way to get them to Baalbek, because the Baalbek is located in the middle of the Lebanon mountains, and it has an average elevation of 8,000 feet, with peaks reaching over 10,000 feet. As you can see, there's a frickin' ski resort there, which I couldn't believe when I was driving there. There was only the ski lifts. I went there in September, so they had to bring all of those multi-ton stone columns from Egypt, and the only way to get there was over these mountains, which is mind-blowing.
And what you're saying, how the crow flies, as the crow flies, what people need to understand is that doesn't take into account elevation changes.
Right.
So if you have a flat line like a bird and you're flying from one point to another, that's 700 miles. But if you have to go up and down and up and down and up and down, it's significantly larger in measurement. It's not 700 miles, it's probably double that.
Right. That's an excellent point. And it's like, then the question is, like, why would they do this? Like, why would they go out of it? How and why?
Why is like it's cool, but
Yeah,
how is the real question? Like, how did obviously we built things because it's cool.
Right.
You know, if you go to the Acropolis and the Parthenon, you go, why do they do it? That's fucking cool. You know, people like to leave cool shit on it.
Right.
When you look at Baalbek, so there's a lot of interesting things about it. Like, it has the largest temple of Jupiter out of anywhere in the Roman Empire. Generally speaking, it's got some of the biggest temples in the Roman Empire, period, but it's a far-flung corner of their empire, and it's not an important city, really. I mean, it's semi-important in the region, but it's certainly no Cairo or anything.
Right.
But it has all these huge temples. My opinion is, my thinking is that they showed up and there was this massive stonework there. And these are the Romans. They can't have the locals thinking their ancestors were better than the Romans, so they fucking hijacked it. Just built big shit on top of it. This is now ours. We put our stamp on it. This is a Roman building. This is all Roman now. This was never your ancestors. This was always ours. And then the locals can't look to their forefathers or whatever legends they had in a couple of generations. Just an hour of Rome.
Well, even the Parthenon, it's built on the Acropolis. The Acropolis is older than the Parthenon. And it's, you know, who made that? Everybody just shrugs their shoulders. Other folks?
Stay away from this.
We got a real thing to put up here.
You know what's interesting about Baalbek as well is that it's in the Bible. The Lebanon Mountains are mentioned 103 times in the Bible. I am not a Bible thumper. I am a believer in a divine creation. I'm proud to say it because I've seen the proof in my own life. However, what's interesting about Baalbek is that they said that it was created by Baal, which is like this demon entity in the Bible, and they declare it as the world's first civilization after the flood, and it was created by giants as punishment for what their iniquities